Welcome to Retro Skill Modelling. This is part 6 of AMT's Star Trek Next Generation Enterprise D. Scale is 1 to 400. In part 6, I'm going to be carrying on with the lighting, predominantly in the saucer section this time. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. There is many ways that you can put lighting into a model, especially on an Enterprise kit. You can put them in singly, as in rows of threes. You can have them in one big band. You can mount them. So I've decided to mount them. So what I've got here is a strip of LEDs, and I'm just measuring out the width, and I'm going to be cutting that off. So I've got a strip of plastic card. So I just use my straight rule and just cutting down my marks. The length that I need, I'm going to need 2 strips here, which I'll join once they're all cut and measured out. To join them, it's just a simple case of a little bit of cement on the end with enough lip to give some purchase, and just join them like that. It doesn't matter if you've got a little step because the lights are going to be going over it anyway. And this part I'll just secure with a bit of tape to make sure it doesn't slip off. So I'll need this strip to curve around the saucer section, and I'll be curving around the inner part where the natural groove is. So I'm just marrying it up here, making sure that I've got enough length. Also, I'm going to have a little bit more than I need because I had to join the 2 parts together. So once I mark it off, I'll just simply snip the tail end. I'm not worried about a straight cut or anything like this because you'll not get to see any of this. This is just predominantly to hold the lights in position. I'm a little bit worried about light bleed on the shuttle bay, so I'm just getting a little bit of filler and beating it around the edges. Now, generally when I'm filling things, I will use sprue glue, but sprue glue is fine, but sometimes if you've got the mixture too thin, light can actually still show through it. So it's better to use a dedicated filler. And for it, I'm using Villaggio's plastic putty. This is a very good filler for jobs like this. Next, I'm using my Dremel to cut off the backing part where the impulse engines are. There's a clear part, I should say, goes in front of this, because obviously I want the light to come through. I'm just taking this off and making sure I'm leaving enough on the edges so that the clear part can fit into it properly. And once the rough cut's done, I'll just file down any burrs on the plastic. So it's back to the lights, and I've got the LED strip. I'm going to be placing it on the card, but only temporarily. So I'm just going to hold it with a little bit of tape before placing it on the saucer section. And the lights are going to be running on both sides of this plastic card. So I've wrapped the lights right around it, as I said, holding with the tape. Now, the reason why I'm doing this now is because I want to see what connection points I have to be soldered for the other lights that I'm planning on putting in. Now, I can't solder every single connection point, but on this occasion, because there's a lot of them, I don't really have to do that, but I have to make sure that I've got enough soldered in the first place. So I'm just marking off which ones that are going to be needing soldered for the lights. So the areas that I want soldered, I've placed on a little dome of solder, and now I'm placing the wires in. In the previous part 5, I went through how I did this. So if you haven't watched that part and you're wondering how I went about this, if you go and watch that part, that will show you me placing the solder onto the LED strip, then placing the wire inside the solder that I put in. It's a process called tinning. And this tinning process just makes it a lot easier to solder the wire onto the new contact points. So as always, once I've done something new to my wiring, I do a light check to make sure everything is working okay. Now, the knives I've got there, my hobby knife and so forth, I'm just laying them on there to keep the light strip flat while I'm working on it. So it's now time to attach the lights. and I'm just putting a little bit of glue down the strip to secure the lights. Now these strip lights do have their own adhesive, and you just take the tape off and it adheres to the plastic. But I have found that sometimes it peels away after a little while. So I just like to secure it a little bit more with a little bit of super glue. Then it's time to mount the lights. So I'll just start at one end, the end with the wire on it, because it's just easier that way. It's not really necessary, but it depends how you feel. And just putting them down in sections, making sure it's nice and secure as I go along. When it comes to the end, I'm not pulling this taut, I'm actually creating a slight loop so that I'm not going to be breaking any connections by having a tight fold in the actual light strip. Sometimes it can break if it's too sharp of an angle. So it's better just to leave a little loop. If you're not sure how much loop you should leave, if you place a pencil or something at the end and wrap your tape around it, that way you know it's a nice area for the wire to continue without breaking. But these things are quite fragile, and it doesn't take much for the circuit to break. That's the lights on, so if I just move out my hand, you can see the loop at the end there. And as I said, if it was any sharper than that, there's a chance that you can break the connection. There's nothing to say that you can't solder this up when you've mounted it on your plastic card. Of course you can, but depending on the thickness of the plastic card, there is a danger you can melt it. But I thought I'd show you here that it can be done. You just have to be a little bit more careful while you're using the solder iron. And once I'm happy with all the contact points, solder points, I'm just placing a little bit of hot glue over each one to insulate it, and also to stop it from moving. So that's the main part of the lights ready to be installed. Before I carry on, I've decided to open up the windows a little bit more. Initially, I thought just the single hole made by the hand drill would be enough, and it is, but I couldn't live with it. In the end, I decided no, open them up fully. So this is what I'm doing. This will add quite a lot of time to the build, but I think it's worth doing in the end. So once I've used my pin drive to open up the second hole, and then I'm just cutting away the plastic to join up both holes, so that I've got one long window. Because I'm doing this, I won't need as many windows revealed. So some of them I'm filling back up with a little bit of filler. Again, a little bit more time added to the build, but I think it's worth the effort. So as you can see there, it's almost done. I've filled in quite a few of the holes. There's still a lot that you're going to be seeing, but I would say about 20%, 30% of them I've covered back up. And before I reprime it, I'm just going to be masking off the shuttle bay area, so obviously I don't get any primer onto the part that I've already worked. Just got to mask off the shuttle bay area before I reprime. And as I'm doing it, this is where I'll end part 6. So I didn't get as far along as I wanted to, but that's the nature of these things. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? Hit that notification bell, that way you'll be kept up to date with all my builds. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.